arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, TJ Watt, out there on the defensive line. The man's a beast. He definitely, when he's playing and he's not hurt, which we've seen him hurt a couple times, when he's healthy and he's out there, that defense is different. The defense clicks. It moves at a different pace, a different level. He is the leader of that team.
Yeah, he is a game wrecker on the defense. So, like you said, they're a completely different team with him on and off the field. So, even I think the offense gets a little juice from him being on the field too. I think the Steelers overall look different with TJ Watt playing.
All About the Balls podcast
with Mark Davis, Chris Meinhardt, Luke Rule, and Nick the Doc Skirkowitz. Hello and welcome to this, man. We're about to have hot takes as we cover the AFC North episode of All About the Balls podcast. I'm your host, Mark Davis, live from the Sack House, joined alongside my two brothers, Luke Rule, Chris Meinhardt, and shout out to you, Doc, as you will not be able to make it. You are celebrating a newlywed couple in Chicago. Congratulations to the lovely new couple. Doc, we hope you get there safe and return safe to us. But Luke, I'm excited. I know it's going to be a lot of hot takes. I know you're excited. This is the AFC North. This is your division. Are you ready? And how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm ready to talk about the AFC North. Probably the best division in the NFL right now. Super competitive. A lot of talent around here. So it's fun to talk about.
I will agree with you.
Starting off with hot takes.
No, I will agree with Luke on one thing. This will be the best division in football. All four teams, this is my hot take in June, all four teams in the AFC North will have a winning record this year. Chris, congratulations on those fucking LSU Tigers as they advanced in the College World Series in baseball to face your Florida Gator rivalry. It's not football, but hey, renew the rivalry for baseball. You guys were in a double elimination bracket. You lost that. You had to win 2 games in a row. You did it. You clutched up. Congratulations, LSU, my friend. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fucking amazing, Mark. LSU's making it to the finals once again. We'll have a rematch of the 2017 finals with LSU and Florida. Unfortunately, they swept us in 2017. But my boy Tommy fucking Tanks walked it off in the 11th inning. Fucking love that man.
Yeah, and the reason why y'all didn't win. The reason why you didn't win 2017 is because you had that long-haired blonde piece of shit. Forgot his name, but I remember we were watching that. I think it was during the cruise lifestyles that we had. Fuck that guy. But LSU's winning it. We're not a Gator fan in this household, not this sack house. We don't watch the Gators. We don't root for them. Wade, if you're listening, fuck the Florida Gators. Go Tigers. But hey,
go Tigers.
We got a pretty good show. Like I said, AFC North breakdown. We're going to talk about the Detroit Lions alternate throwback helmet. Well, not helmet, but the logo's a throwback with the mixture of the new helmet they released. We're going to talk about the Chris Paul and Porzingis trades individually. We're also going to talk about Qatar. The Middle East is buying into American sports, boys. Les Miles is on the docket as well with primetime Deion Sanders, and we have a new listeners load out there. Shout out to you, Ladarius, on Instagram that hit us up with our listeners load question today. But hey, that being said, boys, AFC North, Luke, starting off with one of the Ohio teams, the Cleveland Browns, who finished last year at 7-10. And obviously last year they didn't have their quarterback for most of the year. He was serving an 11-game suspension. But Deshaun Watson finally played some games after sitting out a year in Houston and sitting out 11 games his first year in Cleveland. Is the rust going to be off for Deshaun Watson? Can he get back to that top 5 quarterback form he showed in Houston?
No, I don't think so. I think he's been out of the game for too long to get the rust knocked off. I think the rust is pretty set in on him. So it's just a big pile of money the Browns just wasted on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, fully guaranteed. I mean, first, Kirk Cousins had that contract, but first, like that to that amount. Chris, I know your father-in-law is a big, big Cleveland Browns fan. I know you've been hearing about it. This is the year for the Cleveland Browns, I bet, in that household. Is this the year? Can Deshaun Watson get them to do what Baker did, win a playoff game, get in the playoffs, make some noise?
Yeah, first off, shout out to Daddy A. Huge Browns fan. He texted me before the show. He's like, don't fucking shit talk my team. And I was like, I never would do that. I mean, he already bought my son a couple Browns things before I even bought my son some Saints stuff. So, I mean, if that says anything.
He's a Browns fan, man.
Yeah, I mean, hey, loyal to the Browns, man.
Hey, that little boy is going to be wearing black and gold for the rest of his life.
But Chris, is Deshaun
yeah,
going to knock that rust off?
Yeah, no, back to Deshaun. I think he is. I mean, last season he wasn't able to have the off season. He missed what was it, the first 10 games, I believe.
11 games last year.
11 games. Wasn't able to like be at the facility, couldn't make that chemistry with his wide receivers. So I mean, I think going into this off season, having a full off season, working with the coaches, technically second year in the system, year and a half, we'll say, or a half a year, and this will be his full year. I think he's going to knock some rust off. Is he going to go back to being a top 5 quarterback? I don't believe so. I mean, he might have to get some more massages out there.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Chris, with the whole he's going to knock that rust off. I think now, like you said, he's at that full – I mean, he was there for the off season last year, but then you miss 11 games. So, like, the chemistry kind of wears off. I think now him and Amari Cooper can start to get that chemistry. David Njoku, I know they drafted a receiver, Cedric Tillman, out there from Tennessee. They have Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think they have some good weapons and things like that. But I don't know if they're going to win the division necessarily. Maybe make a wild card. Like I said, all 4 teams will be a winning record in my opinion. But I think Deshaun can get back to that form. Maybe he might not be top 5, maybe sneaking around like top 10 this year and then build that chemistry for the 2024. But I like Cleveland. I think they're a sneaky team, Luke. And I'm sorry, man. I think Deshaun can take him to the playoffs this year. I really do. I like Cleveland's chances. They have a good defense. I think the next topic we're going to hit is Nick Chubb. Can Kevin Stefanski, who's a running coordinator back with Minnesota, can he get Nick Chubb more involved? I know they cut his load last year when Watson got there. Is that going to be the key? Balance that offense with Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson.
I think Nick Chubb is going to be the workhorse for that offense still. So I think they're going to be run-heavy offense, then try to see what Deshaun can do. So try and knock the rust off from not playing for pretty much he's been out like 3 years almost, not playing, give or take.
Yeah, year and a half.
Year and a half. Little ball here, little ball there. Then, but no, yeah. I don't see Deshaun doing well. He had 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last season. I think he's going to continue that pace.
Chris, Nick Chubb going to get involved more and make that team more balanced. I mean, obviously still passing era or passing league, but get Nick Chubb involved and then, let Deshaun Watson do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw last year, Chubb, I mean, this is just fantasy standpoint. Chubb was a top 5 running back going into it, and then Watson came in, and he definitely tallied off. Was that because of Deshaun Watson not really knowing the offense? We don't know. But I definitely think, especially with the Kareem Hunt news, Chubb is going to get a lot more workload. He's going to be a little horse down there just running that ball.
Yeah, especially with no Kareem Hunt there now. So I like it, though. I really do. I think Nick Chubb can get involved more. I think Stefanski's a good play caller when it comes to the offensive side. And I think it's going to be balanced. And I think that's going to get Cleveland to be probably no more than 3rd place in the division, which, like I said, I can get you in the playoffs in the AFC North. Even all 4 teams can get in with the new 7 playoffs in each or conference. But the question also with the offense, boys, is last year they were pretty high in turnovers. Can they cut the turnovers now that you have a more experienced quarterback? Like I said, we know what Watson had some turnovers last year, but that comes with not playing for a while. Chris, Deshaun Watson going to cut the turnovers down and actually be electric.
Yeah, Mark, you hit it on the nail right there. I mean, it just comes off with the rust. I think we're definitely going to see the turnovers kind of go down a little bit. He's going to have that connection with the wide receivers, know what their mind thought is going out there in the receiving. So I think we're going to see the turnovers go down.
Yeah, Luke, I do too. I really think that the turnovers, interceptions, the lost fumbles from quarterbacks, it's going to be there. Deshaun Watson is, like I said, when he was playing in his prime or in his Houston days and even Clemson, the man was a baller, and I think he can get back to that. I think the interceptions will be cut down this year. Take a load off the defense, let the defense not play, in bad position, and let the actual offense work.
I still think they'll be on the higher side for turnovers in the NFL. I mean, I think he'll cut it back from being, 2 touchdowns higher in interceptions, but I still think he'll be on the higher side of the turnovers for the NFL.
Kind of like Josh Allen last year, maybe like 14 or 15 or something like that.
I think he's going to try to prove himself this year, and I think he's going to try to do too much, slinging the ball, try to make some tight window throws like he used to do when he was playing with Houston. And I don't think he's the same quarterback he was in Houston.
Yeah, I unfortunately disagree, Luke. I'm telling you right now, Deshaun Watson's going to prove – I said it. He was going to struggle his first year back, the few games he's going to play. I've always been a Deshaun Watson fan. Like Dabo Sweeney said, he could be the Michael Jordan of football. I really think that Deshaun Watson has that talent in him. I think it's still there. I think the drama's behind him. All that tension's gone. He can focus on football again. Hey, but I mentioned the defense, Chris, and we know they have one of the best defensive players in the league, Myles Garrett. But outside Myles Garrett, this team was like top, I think like the bottom 3 or 4 teams in getting sacks. Can someone else other than Myles Garrett get sacks and force the defense off the field and let the offense work?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns this offseason definitely clearly had one thing going into it, and that was a commitment to improve the D-line. I mean, they signed Dalvin Tomlinson in free agency. They also signed Zadarius Smith. I mean, he racked up 84 pressures last year, one of his highest ones coming out of the Vikings. So, I mean, they definitely committed to improving that D-line. Is it going to work? We're going to just have to see how this chemistry is in that D-line.
Yeah, Luke, you know about Zadarius Smith. Can he help Myles Garrett, one of the best pass rushers in the league?
Yeah, Zadarius Smith is drafted by Baltimore, homegrown guy. He got too expensive for Baltimore's taste, but he's on his 4th team now, so he's been moving around the NFL quite a bit. So
yeah, I don't think that's due to talent though. Yeah,
doesn't have as big of an impact on defensive linemen as much, but still, move around that many times, like it sucks. I mean, he's a beast, so I'll give it to him, but he's going to start aging a little bit. So.
Yeah, I do though. So, I agree. Sorry, Chris, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So does it mean if a player moves around a lot and is aging, that means that they're on the downward slope?
Well, how old is Zadarius Smith? Does anyone? I mean, I didn't actually look at his age.
You should have asked him in the airport.
I did meet Zadarius Smith. I think it was last year in the offseason. I met him in the Minnesota airport when I was traveling back from Florida. I mean, Zadarius Smith is only 30 years old, and he's not going to be the primary pass rusher. I mean, yes, he's going to get his chances. I think they have the talent, though. You can't now double team Myles Garrett because you got to focus on Zadarius, and that frees up Myles Garrett to get more pressures as well.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good duo at the defensive end position to have both of them paired together. I think they'll do well together.
And like Chris said, I got Dalvin Tomlinson as well. It's a pretty big body in the middle of the line too. Cause some blocking for him too. So yeah, I think if this defense, which last year they were 14th overall in yards, so I mean they were in the middle of the pack. Scoring, they gave up some points too, but like I said, that scoring also matters because they're in bad field position to start off because of the offense struggling. So that offense can balance out with the defense. I think this team can be good, and with that, the expectations, boys, 9.5. I mean, it's a pretty good number, I think, with adding Watson for the whole year. Luke, what you got?
So I got the Browns taking 7 losses. So I think they get swept by the Bengals and Ravens. And they'll split the Steelers. Then they'll lose to the Jags and the Jets.
So you have the over on that one then. Yeah, so if you have you have 7 losses, yeah, you're over. Hey,
I got seven losses. I got everybody. AFC North going to be pretty good this season.
Yeah, and like I said, every team winning record. I believe every team can get 9 wins. Chris, you had that schedule pulled up. I know Luke was already ready. What's your over-under for the Cleveland Browns? You don't have to read through every game. Just what you think, what you looking at in the early going in June.
Yeah, I have them about 10 wins. I think they split with Cincinnati. They split with Baltimore. I think they also split with the Steelers. I mean, I think that whole division is going to split wins. I don't think one is much greater than the other.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I can see every team being 3-3 in division record when it's all said and done. So you have the over. I have the over too. I think Cleveland will be at worst, the 3rd place team. We'll see what Baltimore is going to do. I mean, I don't have Baltimore winning division, so we know where I lie with division winners. But yeah, I have the over too, and that just solely falls on Deshaun Watson being a way better quarterback than they had last year with Jacoby Brissett, and then himself coming in towards the end of the year and having Nick Chubb actually get more load, actually get more of a workload with Deshaun Watson in the starting quarterback position. So yeah, that's the Cleveland Browns, boys. That is last year's last place team. And moving on, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who once again another winning record under Mike Tomlin. Man's never had a losing record as a Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. They were 9-8. The question is, Chris, second year, sophomore season for Kenny Pickett, can he make that jump and be a little better than he did last year and take this team? Now adding Allen Robinson from the Los Angeles Rams and drafting Darnell Washington as the backup to Pat Freiermuth, can Kenny Pickett get it done?
Yeah, I mean, I can see this being the same situation out there in Duval County with T-Law. I mean, T-Law definitely improved his second season, but I mean, barring any like a massive breakout from Kenny, I still see him as the fourth best signal caller in this division right now.
Luke, you with Chris on that one? Probably just going to be an average quarterback at best.
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett. I mean, I think he'll be better than he played last season, but I still think in this division he'll still be on either at the same level as Deshaun Watson, maybe a little bit worse. His weapons don't really scare me either. George Pickens, I think, is a little overrated. He'll make some highlight catches, but other than that, he's not making too many big time catches in games. And Allen Robinson, I think he's getting a little washed up. He's a little older. I don't think he did too much in his last team. And Deontay Johnson, I think he's actually a stud though.
Yeah, Johnson's good. He just can't get in the end zone. I
Yeah.
don't think he had one touchdown last year. He's kind of had that Julio effect for a little bit last year. But yeah, I kind of agree with you guys. I think Kenny Pickett's just going to be average, the fourth best QB in the division. I do think though the defense, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is good enough to get them maybe in the playoffs. I mean, like I said, this is a defensive division at its finest, literally. But I don't know. But Kenny Pickett's going to struggle, and that falls on also not struggle, but be average. To me, that also falls, boys, on Najee Harris. Yes, he did have 1,000 yards last year, but he only averaged 3.8 yards per carry. So they obviously force-fed him the ball so much that he had 1,000 yards. Horrible sophomore season, in my opinion, when it comes to actually just rushing the ball. Do you think Najee Harris can bounce back from that sophomore slump to help Kenny Pickett?
So, I mean, first, before anything, don't disrespect Kenny Pickett. That's a future MVP right there, or Super Bowl, Pro Bowl contestant. So don't disrespect him. But
Sorry.
I mean, Najee, he's a difficult running back because Tomlin and that whole Steelers organization has definitely voiced that they want to cut back on making him the workhorse in that offense, but they still continue to feed him the ball every single game. So I mean, I think he bounces back, but I think it's just going to be average 1,000-yard rusher again.
So pretty much the offense will just be average. Luke, kind of agree with Chris there. You think maybe Harris is going to stay back where he was at last year? Or do you think he's going to bounce back to like his rookie year?
Yeah, I think he'll maintain like last season. Nothing fancy coming out of the Steelers offense. They're going to maintain that ground and pound at least as best they can. So Najee's probably going to stick to his 3 yards of carry and edge out 1,000 yards for the season, just pounding down. That offense I think is going to be pretty flat for the most part. Kenny Pickett, good player, but I don't think he's going to be at the level he needs to be in this division.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Najee Harris. I do know though that I think it solely falls on the offensive line and the running game. If that running game can get going, like I said, a quarterback's best friend is a run game because it opens up the play action. It opens up the people being stacked, so more one-on-ones with your receivers. I think Deontay Johnson and Pickens can make plays. I don't know about Allen Robinson. I can see him bounce back. He had a horrible year with the Rams. Also didn't have Stafford most of the year, so that kind of hurts. But yeah, I think it solely falls on Matt Canada, the offensive coordinator, getting Najee Harris better looks, the line protecting a lot better for him, and then letting Kenny Pickett do his thing. Mr. Two Glove out there, let him do his thing. I mean, he's athletic enough to also make plays in the run game too. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he could definitely run the ball. We saw him do it in Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, when he did that fake slide. But yeah, the offense to me, that's the key. That's the question mark, because we know that defense. Like the next top talking point is, can they be top 10? Can they lead this team to the playoffs, like we mentioned with the Patriots, Luke?
I think they have potential to make it to the playoffs, but no, I don't think they'll be a top 10 team in the NFL overall.
Yeah, they were 13th in defense yards and 10th in scoring. So I mean, they were hovering around that top 10 with yards. So Chris. Yeah. Can TJ Watt and the boys, recently new signed Patrick Peterson. They also drafted Joey Porter Jr. Out there from Penn State. Can this defense get back to top 10 and do its thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to hover, like you said, Mark. I think they're going to hover around that 13, 10. They're going to hover around that 10. I don't think they're going to go too much higher. Like you said, I mean, they did lose Cameron Sutton. That was a huge loss with them. But they did sign Patrick Peterson. That's going to give them that veteran leadership in the locker room. I mean, Peterson last year, 5 interceptions, 14 forced incompletions. He earned his highest PFF grade since 2018. So, I mean, he's still there. I mean, is he in his prime? Probably not. but he's not downfalling. And then, like you mentioned, Joey Porter, that was a steal of a corner in the second round there. I mean, Porter allowed 47.1% of his passes thrown into coverage to be completed last season in college. I mean, that's outstanding. He's going to be a lockdown corner, future cornerback right there.
Also, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, TJ Watt, out there on the defensive line. The man's a beast. He definitely, when he's playing and he's not hurt, which we've seen him hurt a couple times, when he's healthy and he's out there, that defense is different. The defense clicks. It moves at a different pace, a different level. He is the leader of that team.
Yeah, he is a game wrecker on the defense. So, like you said, they're a completely different team with him on and off the field. So, even I think the offense gets a little juice from him being on the field too. I think the Steelers overall look different with TJ Watt playing.
Yeah, he has that effect.
I mean, he makes all that money. He needs to pay someone to clean his pool. Okay, we can't take any more falling into the pool.
Yeah, that looked like an ACL tear, almost ready to happen, Chris.
TJ, pay somebody to clean that fucking pool.
Hey, I'll come clean that pool, TJ Watt. If you're listening, I will come to wherever you live at, and I'll clean that damn pool for you. Hey, you don't have to give me mega money. Just give me a little less than what those 5-star pool guys are getting out there. But speaking of a beast of a leader, I think he proved me wrong last year. Probably the most underrated coach no one talks about because he hasn't won a Super Bowl since the 2008 season, hasn't been to the Super Bowl since the 2010 season. Mike Tomlin. I know he's had some 500 records back when they played 16 games, but the man does not have losing records. So that's the last point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Mike Tomlin finally get a losing season, or will he continue to get at least 9 wins? Luke.
No, he gets that 9 wins again this season. It's not going to happen. Mike Tomlin's going to find a way to get his 9 wins, or at least 8-1. He's going to figure out how to get it done. Mike Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the NFL. Probably I put him number 3 coach in the NFL, maybe 4, but top 5. And he's not going to be on the hot seat for a long time, even like with the Steelers. Even if he has a losing record, he's still pretty secure in his job.
Well, Pittsburgh's faithful to their coaches. I believe they've had 3 head coaches in their last 70 years, something like that. They had Chuck Noll, and then they had obviously Bill Cowher, and now Mike Tomlin. Chris, we know Luke's over-under. Does Mike Tomlin continue this winning record ways?
I mean, I think he does. I mean, at the end of the day, the Steelers are just such a hard team to get behind on paper heading into the 2023. They don't have really, like we've already mentioned, they don't really have any studs at the wide receiver core. I mean, they have a second-year quarterback coming. It's tough to get behind them, but I think Tomlin, he always finds a way to maximize that pool of talent in that locker room, and I have them over with 9 wins.
Yeah, the over-under, if everyone's listening, I didn't say it's 8.5, and I'm agreeing with you boys. Mike Tomlin proved me wrong last year, and until he proves me wrong with his winning ways, I have him over as well. I think he's a great coach. I honestly think he might be the best coach in the division, honestly. I know Luke's a Ravens fan. He might have a little bit of a say about John Harbaugh, which we're going to talk about him too, because I got some things to say about Mr. John H. out there. But I think Mike Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the league. I think, Belichick history-wise is better, but not currently. I mean, Tomlin shows to keep elevating.
Tomlin's the second longest tenured head coach in the NFL right now, behind Belichick.
Yep.
And Harbaugh's number 3.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely shows. I mean, they know how to keep their job. I mean, obviously, Bill's success is going to keep him there. 6 Super Bowls, been in multiple more Super Bowls as a head coach. But yeah, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. And moving on to Luke's team, the Baltimore Ravens, who finished at 10-7. They made the wild card last year. Obviously, their quarterback, who they paid big bucks this year, Lamar Jackson, was not at that game. Didn't even show up for the game. Luke, that is the first question. Is this the year that the former MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson finally makes a deep run in the playoffs? The Ravens haven't won at least 2 playoff games since your Super Bowl year in 2012. Is this the season Lamar finally gets it done, makes a deep playoff run?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is it. They're finally investing in that offense instead of the defense for once. So paid the quarterback, got the wide receivers. We got 5 first-round picks at the wide receiver room. So got 2 studs at the running back. The big question for the Ravens is if they stay healthy, which they had the F for the training staff last season. So they went this offseason, fired the entire training staff, got a new training staff. So see if the new guys can figure it out, keep the players healthy. If they stay healthy, the Ravens can be a scary team on offense.
Before
And
Chris jumps in,
yeah,
I want to ask you on the weapons. You are a believer in these weapons. I know Mark Andrews is top 3, potentially top 2 tight end in the league. You're a believer in this offensive weapons they have outside Mark Andrews?
Yeah, I think so. Zay Flowers, I think, is going to be a stud. He's got Steve Smith out here coaching him how to be a smaller wide receiver, play feisty like he did. I think Odell Beckham's he's gonna prove it here. So he's gonna try to prove himself that he's still got it. I mean, you saw him play in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He probably would have been the Super Bowl MVP, and now he's actually got his knee completely fixed. He says he's fully healthy, ready to go. So I think he's gonna try to prove it. And this is also Bateman's prove it year too. So he's been banged up a couple, like the last 2 seasons, hasn't really got that opportunity to show what he's got. You saw at the beginning of the season, he played well until he was hurt and just kind of fell off. But so,
Chris, you hear that excitement? I haven't heard Luke this excited in the Sack House since he's been on the show. Are you going to keep hyping him up, Luke? Chris, you going to keep hyping him up, or are you going to bring him down a little bit? How do you feel about Lamar Jackson? Is this finally the time that the 2019 MVP takes him on a deep playoff run?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most Luke knows about a football team, so he's hyped. But, I mean, I think the fact that this receiving core is the deepest and most talented that they've had with Jackson's career is just sad. I mean, they have OBJ, old, coming off back-to-back ACL tears. Does he even have a fucking ACL anymore? And what's the statistics of a wide receiver coming back from that? I mean, they brought in Nelson Aguilar. He's okay. The number one talent there is Mark Andrews. I mean, you have 2 running backs that can't stay healthy. I don't think either of them played a full season.
Well, 3 running backs if you count Lamar.
If you count
4
Lamar.
if you count Justice Hill too.
I don't even know who that is.
He's pretty good. He's a little scat back.
Okay. I mean, that's how much he makes a impact on a team. Okay.
He did last season.
I think the only was that when Lamar was always hurt.
It was when our whole offense was hurt. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Ravens need to stay healthy for this team to be number 1 over here in the North. I think Lamar needs to prove it. I mean, he got his big ass contract. Can he make these games? Can he stay healthy? I mean, he had back-to-back seasons, 12 games this year, 12 games last year, and then 15. I mean, we haven't seen much from him since that 2019 MVP season. I think they did great with Flowers. I mean, he's also a very small wide receiver, so we'll see how he does. But I think the Ravens are still going to be the second team in this division.
Yeah, Luke, I hate to say it. I think Lamar, I mean, we agree. This is definitely a prove-it year for Lamar. I mean, he got paid, so, I mean, I guess he doesn't have to prove it for contract purposes, but to prove why he got paid, he has to prove it. The man has 1 playoff win in 4 games, so, yes, he has to prove it. I don't think this offense is good enough to make a deep playoff run. I think Lamar is good enough to get them to the playoffs. I think he's good enough to be a wild card team, maybe challenge the Bengals for the division. I mean, you'd never say never when it comes to that kind of thing, those kind of things, but I don't think that this offense is good enough to compete with the likes of Kansas City, New York, Cincinnati, Buffalo, potentially Miami if they're healthy, when it comes to scoring the ball in the playoffs when it matters. I just don't trust Lamar Jackson. Outside of Mark Andrews, I don't trust the receivers. Odell's battled this ACL a couple times now, and I don't trust your receivers' size. For Lamar to be successful, his accuracy, yes, he was good his MVP year because the box is being stacked, so it's easy to make one-on-one throws. But when you can kind of challenge that run game a little bit, he makes a little bit of wild throws, and you need a bigger body receiver, and you just don't have that kind of big body out there. Bateman's small. Flowers is small. Odell, we don't know what he's going to be because of his injuries. And yes, Mark Andrews, I guess I'll give you all that all day long. Outside Kelsey and maybe Kittle and maybe Hawkinson, there's no one else that can compete with him in the tight end position. I don't trust Lamar Jackson when it comes to it in the playoffs. So I don't know if you want to rebuttal that, Luke. I mean, like I said, you are the Ravens fan. I mean, I think the offense is overrated. That was the next point. I just think they're overrated when it matters.
No, I don't think the offense is overrated at all. I mean, they're getting a lot of hype this offseason, but I don't think they're overrated. I think this is the first time like they've really invested in wide receivers for Lamar. So now Lamar's running a brand new offense with Todd Monken, and Lamar said he's got the keys to the ship here, so he's making a lot of decisions on the fly. So we'll see how he does with that.
Yeah, I mean that's
Which
going to be the key.
You keep
Okay,
saying that they like
Back daddies.
that they got these weapons for Lamar, but I still don't see weapons. I mean, you got
Right,
Nelson Aguilar, we got OBJ, back-to-back injuries.
Compared to
And
our
you got a
last
rookie.
wide receiver course, it is a lot better.
Compared to the last one, it is a lot better, and that's why I said that the fact that this is the deepest wide receiver core is sad.
And they're still able to make the playoffs with that.
But so you make the playoffs, but you guys maybe when you won a playoff game a couple years against the Titans, but is it still deep enough to make a deep playoff run? I mean, maybe a game. Yeah, okay, I can understand maybe a game, but that's the point is you upgrade it from dirt shit to polished shit. Doesn't mean it's still great enough to be Super Bowl worthy team.
It's if Lamar can stay healthy, if our offense can stay moderately healthy this season, I think we have a chance to make it deep in the playoffs.
But that's the problem is I've seen Lamar Jackson have the number 1 overall seed in the AFC in his MVP year and then gets just demolished by Tennessee. Didn't play that good in that game anyways. And then the Buffalo game, he was pretty bad. Even the Tennessee game y'all won, he wasn't that good. So I just don't know, man. We know the history with the Chiefs. You guys don't have – Lamar doesn't have a good history against the Chiefs, only beating them once. I mean, he's 6-2 against the Bengals, like you stated, but only 1-1 against Joe Burrow. So I just don't know. And I think the Jets are going to be really good. I don't know if you can compete with the offensive juggernauts with those guys. That's the only problem. And with that, if you guys can't get it done, Luke, John Harbaugh. We know we talked about Bill Belichick and his 6 Super Bowls, and we're talking about him potentially being done. Is it time for John to show up, win some games, or is it time for him to get the hell out of the Baltimore and replace him and have a new culture?
No, I don't think John Harbaugh's going anywhere. I don't think his seat's even a little bit warm. I mean, the Ravens front office very very loyal, very tight knit front office. So I don't think Harbaugh's going anywhere anytime soon. Plus, if you get rid of him, then who are you going to go get? Promote somebody from within the Ravens organization, or I don't think Harbaugh goes anywhere. They love him in Baltimore. He's a big figure in that Baltimore area, so he's going to stay on the team, even if they don't make the playoffs.
I have a name for you. If he balls out as offensive coordinator and he proves it wasn't Andy Reid, bring Eric Bieniemy in. Let him run an offense and let him build an offense that he likes. Chris, it's a time for John to get that seat a little warm because he hasn't done anything really in the playoffs since 2012.
I agree with Luke. I don't think his seat's a little warm right now, but it should be. Like you said, they haven't done much since 2012, haven't made a late playoff push, and the way he's managing this team, I know he's not the GM, but he definitely has some insight to the GM's mind. The way that they're adding weapons just it hasn't been there the past 4 years.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, they're very loyal out there. They're not going to probably replace him. I think that he maybe not should get replaced, but I mean, they should be talking to him and say, listen, John, you got to win a couple games. I mean, hell, your brother's making playoff appearances finally out there in Michigan. So why can't you do the same thing and get to that Final Four spot? Get to the AFC Championship. Just get to the AFC Championship. Show some sign that you can do it. He hasn't done it since the Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and the boys out there. It's been a long time. It's been 11 seasons, Luke, since John Harbaugh's got that team deep in the playoffs.
I think this team that they have now is capable of doing it. I think they're going to have a top 5 defense as well. They probably have the best linebacker duo with Smith and Queen sitting back there. Young defensive line ready to prove themselves, and a solid secondary. So
well, hopefully Queen can
carry this team too.
Hopefully Queen can stay upright when he gets a running quarterback trying to run him over like the Madden game.
But hey, it's only Madden. Only Madden.
Yeah, I have the over/under. The over/under, Luke, for the Baltimore Ravens. I think I know where you're lying there. 10.5.
Yeah.
They were 10-7 last year. Where do you got them at?
I got them way over. So I'm going 4 losses for the Ravens. So split the Bengals, then lose Chargers, 49ers, and split Steelers.
So 13-4, is that the best record in the AFC, or is that maybe like number 2 in the AFC?
I think that'd probably be like the 2 seed. I think Kansas City is going to have a hell of a year again. but I think they edge out the Bills for the number 2 seed, and the Bills get 3.
Chris, you have that schedule up. Are you agreeing with Luke, or are you over 10.5? I mean, if you are, is it a big number like that? Where are you looking at for the Baltimore Ravens?
I'm under at 10. I think they lose against Cincinnati at Cincy. I think they lose at Cleveland. I think they go on a winning streak here. They beat Pittsburgh. They beat Tennessee. I'm high up on Detroit. I think Detroit wins. Arizona, Seattle, they win. Cleveland, they win. Cincinnati, they lose again. And then they win Los Angeles, beat Jacksonville, and then lose the last 3.
Yeah, I mean, I have under Chris with you at 10. I mean, not saying all the games. I'm just saying there's some games you split with the whole division. Right? So that's already 3. We already said it. I can see them losing against the Chargers. I can see them losing against the Lions. Hey, Pete Carroll is great when traveling to the East Coast with the Seahawks. I definitely see that. You have the Niners up there. Don't count Duval County out. It's at Jacksonville. It's going to be a primetime game. Wherever they're playing is going to be rocking. I mean, like I said, Trevor Lawrence definitely made that jump last year. I have 10, no more than 11, though. So I have it right there at 10, and that's the second, maybe third place team, depending on the tiebreaker with the Cleveland Browns. But moving on to the other Ohio team, last year's division champion at 12-4. They didn't play that 17th game due to the Damar Hamlin game. The Cincinnati Bengals, they've made a Super Bowl with Joe Burrow's first healthy year, second season. Last year, they made an AFC Championship. They made an AFC Championship both years. He's been healthy, Chris. Can they get to their second Super Bowl in 3 years? Can Joe Burrow take the Cincinnati Bengals back to the Super Bowl?
I mean, Cincinnati this offseason, they didn't drastically get worse. They drastically didn't get better. I mean, they just shifted. They're slightly younger. They shifted around talent, and I think that could be enough. I mean, it all depends on what that O-line's looking at. I know we're going to cover that in a little bit, but they have a shot.
Luke, you're going no, right?
No, I don't think they're making the Super Bowl. If that was what your question was. No. I think they make it second round of the playoffs, but no Super Bowl for the Bengals.
I have a potential Super Bowl. I mean, like I said, I mentioned earlier when we talked about the AFC East, the Jets, Bengals, and AFC Championship. So if you ask me in June right now when we're recording this, I think it's going to come down to Jets, Bengals, and AFC Championship, which means Joe Burrow gets back to another conference title game in his fourth season. He played all 3 healthy seasons, and he gets back there. He's kind of shown he's a little clutch. And that's the question, Luke. Joe Slants, Mr. Slant King to you. Can he get that MVP trophy?
No, I don't think he does. It's going to be hogged up by Mahomes for the time being. I think Aaron Rodgers has another shot at it this year. A little more weapons for him, but no, I don't think Joe Burrow is that good of a player by himself to get the MVP. I think he relies too much on his wide receivers to do a lot of the work for him. So he'll do that little 5-yard slant and just let Jamar Chase run it for 80 yards.
Chris, he's an LSU boy.
I mean, they had a lot of slants in those playoff games against the Ravens.
Yeah, I think we were counting. I think we counted 2 or 3.
Luke were counting. Yeah, we were all counting. It was almost every throw was either like a deep slant, a post slant. I mean, there was a lot of slants.
Comeback slants are in there.
I think Joe Mixon even got a slant in there, a handoff slant a couple times.
Probably did. Is Joe Mixon ever going to play this season?
Yeah, hey, that's that'll come a minute. Chris, Joe Slant's MVP though this year.
I mean, like Luke said, I think it's hard with Patrick Mahomes there. I mean, he's elite. Again, we got to see the O-line, but I mean, Joe Slants probably has one of the most deadly trios as wide receiver, Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. I mean, that's probably the best trio of wide receivers in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. And like I said, Mahomes is getting that Brady effect and Aaron Rodgers effect where I don't think Mahomes is going to win every year, obviously. They're just not going to give it to the same guy every single year. But I think he's got a shot. I think he's a top 3 candidate. I really do. I think he was close his first healthy year because he made that late push, and he had the numbers to get it. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers was balling at a different level, so he got it. I think if they can get the number 1 record, maybe even the 2 record in the AFC, maybe NFL, he can get it. But it's very hard. Like you said, Jalen Hurts is going to come back hungry too this year. There's a lot of names that are going to want it. And I know Luke mentioned it. Well, we're going to mention both at the same time. Joe Mixon and that offensive line. Is Mixon going to play, Luke? And is that O-line improved? They did sign Orlando Brown, former Raven, former Chief, won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs last year. Can this O-line improve, keep Joe Burrow upright, and can Joe Mixon keep the load off Joe Burrow as well?
Yeah, Orlando Brown is a good player, but he's pretty much too big of a diva at the left tackle position. That's the reason the Ravens traded him. It's just because he wasn't willing to play right tackle because he wasn't good enough to play left tackle for the Ravens. So they traded him to the Chiefs, and I think he was having problems over there with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs ended up letting him walk. So, but we don't even know if Mixon's going to play or if he's going to be suspended or what's going to happen with him for the season.
He might even be a training camp cut, during those cut days.
Yeah.
So, Chris, does Joe Mixon stay on the team, you think? What's your prediction there? And does this O-line help Joe Burrow, one of the most heavily hit quarterbacks in his last 2 years, stay upright?
Yeah, I mean, Mixon is just it's up there. I know he's talking about contract money. I mean, the suspension is there. Do they even want to worry about that? I mean, there's a lot of talks about running backs in this league right now, talking about money, and they're not getting paid. So does Mixon see that and say, hey, I'll be a team player and I'll take whatever I can get? With the O-line thing, I mean, Orlando Brown, that's just a red flag. I mean, Bengals are paying elite money. Has he shown being elite? Sort of, but I mean, the Chiefs and Ravens both moved on from him. So, I mean, it's a red flag there. They got Cody Ford on the inside. They definitely look to improve that O-line. Hopefully it works out again. I mean, we thought they improved it last season, and it didn't.
Man, he's saying we a lot there, Luke. He might be a closet Bengals fan.
Hey, I already told you. Bengals my second team.
No, I think Joe Mixon stays on the team. Now, suspension, we'll have to see where that comes. I think he has at least one more year in the tank that can help Joe Burrow in that offensive firepower they have, like you mentioned with the trio. And I think the O-line will be a little better. I think Orlando Brown's a good signing for them. Maybe overpaid a little bit, but hey, you have to overpay left tackles. It's the most important position on that offensive line. It's the blind side for right-handed quarterback. So I think the Bengals O-line will be just fine. I think Mixon will be there at least one more year. They did draft Chase Brown, rookie out of Illinois, one of the better running backs in college last year. I think the Bengals are going to be good. And one thing we haven't talked about is they lost both safeties. They lost Von Bell to the Panthers. They lost Jesse Bates III to the Atlanta Falcons. Does that actually hurt the defense? Are they not talking about this, Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, that leaves a huge hole in their secondary. And the Bengals kind of did a little movement of rob Peter to pay Paul. I mean, instead of spending that money in that secondary, they spent money on the offensive line that really needed it. They have Daxton Hill coming out of the 2022 draft. I mean, he's going to have to step up. So, I mean, they kind of switch the talent to younger guys instead of paying these older guys and paying for that offensive line.
Yeah, Luke, is this defense going to take a hit?
I think the defense does. I think they don't have the capability to handle high-powered offenses like big-time quarterbacks like Mahomes or Josh Allen, or they're going to have a hard time containing Lamar in the Ravens offense that they can actually throw the ball now. So it's going to be tough for them. But the Bengals, this is going to be a make-or-break year for the Bengals because they're going to have to start paying some of these dudes. Like Joe Burrow's up for it, Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Boyd all going to be looking at contracts here pretty much after this season or sometime in this offseason.
Yeah.
So somebody's had to go.
This defense was a bend or break last year. They were 16th in yards, but hey, they're only 6th in scoring. So they definitely held the other team to not scoring many points, but the safeties being gone, I think that's going to drastically change. That scoring might go up a little bit, which is going to put more pressure on the offense. And like you said, Luke, T. Higgins, I know Chase is getting paid. Joe Burrow will get paid. They'll find a way to keep those two. The question is, Tyler Boyd's out the door. He's not going to stay. The question is, though, can they keep T. Higgins alongside with Chase? That will be a topic for the 2024 outlook. But, yeah, there's a lot of pressure. This is definitely, maybe a go all in for this year, and hopefully they stay afloat, for the future. But this defense needs to take some pressure off that offense, too. You don't want to put too much pressure. Like Chris Amino with the Falcons and the Saints for those many years, we had shit defenses, and you're forcing your highly talented offense to score 35 points a game. And that's not how you win games in this league. You have to have a well-balanced defense. Last year they were good enough to do it. And if they can keep that afloat, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
so over under. No,
So
there you
it's
go.
gonna be tough for them with the weaker defense in the NFC North too, having to like compete against these top tier defenses that the NFC North is like known to produce.
Yeah, and with that, Luke, like I said, we have the over under. I mean, they were 12-4 last year. We're going to go with that. 12.5. Luke, under,
Yeah,
I'm assuming for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 5 losses for the Bengals. So they're gonna split Ravens, lose Kansas City, lose the Vikings, lose the 49ers, and split the Steelers.
Yeah, that Kansas City game's tough there, Chris. I mean, Joe Burrow is 3-1 against Patty Mahomes out there. He's the only quarterback, I think, to beat Patrick Mahomes 3 times in a career.
Yeah.
Over under for
Burrow had my ass.
over under, Chris, 12.5 for those Cincinnati Bengals.
I've over with 13 to 14 wins this season.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over for Houday. Actually, I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go 12, but division winning 12 wins. I have the Bengals winning the division at 12-5. I think those couple games they shouldn't probably maybe like I said they're gonna split the division and then the 2 out of division games they'll find somewhere. 12-5 though for the Bengals. I have a repeating division winner in the AFC North. Luke has the Ravens, his hometown team. Chris has his college boy Joe Burrow, Mr. Joe Slants, what we call him in the Sack House, taking him back for a 3rd straight division title. That is your AFC North, boys. And next week's show on Monday when we record NFC North, Doc will be excited. We're going to cover the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Green Bay Packers. Some interesting storylines actually in that division. And speaking of the Detroit Lions, they released a new helmet. You know, like Luke said, kind of like that Mustang feel. They have the 2 stripes, blue and white, going down, and they have the light blue helmets, but they have their throwback logo. I just think it looks ugly. I don't mind the stripes that much, but with the lion, it kind of reminds me of that grocery store food lion, and it looks like dog shit. Chris, you feeling this helmet?
Yeah, the helmet looks like poo-poo. I don't know what intern made this design. The lion, what's up with his tail? Like, it comes out, it looks like you're playing Snake. And then the 2 lines, like, I get what they're going for. That old, I don't like it.
Luke?
I think that I like the color blue it has. It looks cool with their gray uniforms. If they would have got rid of those 2 Mustang stripes, I think the helmet would overall look a lot better. I get what they're going for with the throwback logo, but those little Mustang Mach 3 or Mach 1 stripes, not doing it for me.
Yeah, and maybe if the stripes are gone, maybe the line would be fine.
Yeah.
I just think it reminds me of Food Lion, and so I don't know why.
It does. Is that actually like their throwback lion? Is it real, or is it just a made up one?
Yeah, it's a throwback.
No, it's real.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a real throwback.
Oh, well, that lion's fine then if it's the actual throwback. They actually just made that for this. But I get those little Mustang stripes.
There are some throwbacks you just don't need. I mean, I understand, like the Pittsburgh Bumblebee uniforms, just
they're
ugly.
They're trash.
Yeah, like it's a throwback, but it's ugly. I mean, if it's ugly, don't use it. Come on, your fans are going to be embarrassed. Detroit, you can do a lot better than that, especially with the firepower and hype you're getting. Hey, but speaking of firepower, Chris, we had two firepower trades. Chris Paul got traded to the Wizards, and then they shipped him out to Golden State for Jordan Poole. Does this make the Golden State Warriors contenders again? Now they have Steph, Clay, Andrew Wiggins. Draymond's potentially going to come back. He wants to retire with Steph Curry. So is this good for the Warriors? They're pretty small, though.
I mean, the Warriors were always going to be contenders. I think this was a huge move because, I mean, we saw truly who Poole was in the playoffs. He played like dog shit, not up to his name. And like you mentioned when we were talking about all the NBA games was like, why is he even considered a superstar? Because he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of the other trade, Chris, Porzingis, I can't pronounce his first name. Porzingis, formerly a New York Knick, formerly a Maverick, and a Washington Wizard, got traded to Boston. Boston was heavy on him. They just wanted him. The first trade they had fell through, and then they got him, and they traded Marcus Smart to Memphis. Is this a win for Boston? Does this keep them afloat? Maybe be a Eastern Conference favorite still?
Yeah, big move for Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I have to disagree. I don't know if I like it. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to do out in Boston. Apparently, Boston's still trying to make moves, so we'll see what's going to go on there. Hey, that's your NBA talk, and we mentioned the Wizards, Chris and Luke. Qatar, the city of Qatar. I mean, I call it Qatar. Some people call it Qatar. However you want to say it, doesn't matter to me. The first sovereign wealth fund to buy into American sports. They own 5% of the parent company of the Washington Wizards, the Washington Capitals, and the Washington Mystics. So the NBA, the NHL, and the WNBA team. Is this, like we've mentioned it before with Saudi, is the Middle East coming for American sports, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's a good investment for them. Like the oil fields might be like done. Most like the United States are moving away from the oil, moving all to electric. So this might be an investment for them to get ahead of like losing that income.
Chris, you liking this? You liking that Middle East coming over here and taking over American sports potentially? I mean, it's only 5%, but still, they're in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a small sharehold over the whole thing. I think this is just going to open up the floodgates to more countries outside the U.S. trying to buy into U.S. teams, and I don't like it. I mean, but hey, whatever stays.
The only reason why I don't like it is just potentially if they move teams to the other side of the country. Like, I don't have a problem with other countries having teams and professionals, but it's just harder for us, us in the United States of America, to watch the games. It's kind of why I don't like the London games already. I live out in the West Coast. I have to wake up at 6:30 in the morning just to watch the game. I understand, you want to expand to the other parts of the world, but it's hard for where this sport is primarily in for us to already watch it. That's the only thing I don't like about it, is if they move it. Hey, if they want to buy into it, why not? I mean, I don't care who your owner is and who your board is from. I'm afraid that the game's going to move over to other parts of the world, and it's harder for us to watch it because it's going to be inconvenient for us.
Yeah, I mean, money talks though.
That's a great point you have there, Mark, with possibly teams moving over. And I mean, maybe they should look into opening up their own league. I mean, we have the Canadian Football League, and we get players out of there, or players go there when they're done with the NFL. So, I mean, maybe Qatar should get their own Qatar League.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, to be honest, being out there before in the summertime when it's football season, I don't know if the players are going to like that too much. 120 degrees, 115 degrees, I don't think so. I don't think it's
Indoor
meant for them
stadiums.
to. I guess you could play in indoor stadiums. That's true.
They got the money for that.
They got indoor snowboarding facilities.
That is very true. They do. That's my only concern is if they move teams over there. Like I said, I have no problem who owns a team. I don't care if Joe Schmo from France owns a team. I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. If they want to grow the game in our country, that's fine. I love it. I mean, why not help the team grow and develop? Chris, next topic. Les Miles, your former he won the NCAA championship back when it was the BCS Bowl with, Jamarcus Russell and Matt Flynn. He got vacated 37 wins from 2012 to 2015 for paying one of the players' father. He might have lost his Hall of Fame spot. Shame on your boy Les Miles, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the news break today, and it hurt me, not going to lie. I love Les Miles, that grass-eating motherfucker. I loved him as a coach until he started not doing so good. I mean, his scheme in football is just the power run formation, and that wasn't cutting it anymore. I mean, I would have loved to see, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. It also hurts knowing that other teams are doing this as well. I mean, you have Alabama you can say allegedly they probably paid Mark Ingram. I mean, kid comes from New Jersey, doesn't have money, plays in Alabama, and then buys his mom a house. How is this kid making money playing college football when NIL wasn't a thing yet?
He was working he was looking at the local shops downtown, dude.
Yeah, while practicing for Nick Saban. So I mean, if they're gonna investigate LSU, start investigating all of
other teams,
college football. I mean, you have
Luke,
Reggie Bush out of USC that got his Heisman pulled.
Well, that was because he was selling his merchandise. That was different.
Can't do that back then.
But hey, Luke, speaking of, I mean, is LSU shady? They had their basketball coach too that got fired. He lost 10 games as well with his new team. Should they start investigating LSU a lot more? Maybe it's all the other teams, maybe baseball too.
Yeah, I mean,
we were ahead of the time.
Hey, you could look into it. I mean, LSU's doing whatever it takes to win. So if it takes paying some players, they're going to come play for the team. They're going to do it. Same thing with the Saints. It's the Louisiana teams. They all fucking do it. They got the bounty hits, the bounty scandals. They pay players to fucking knock quarterbacks out, try to injure them. So that's what they do down there.
I mean, every team did bounty hits. I mean, Ohio back in the day, you hit it.
There's
you
only
hit
one-
somebody hard enough.
Only one team
You
got
hit it
caught.
hard. I know. They started.
Well,
investigating.
one coach got caught. He got caught doing it with the Commanders, or formerly, the team they were known before that back then with the letter R. But yeah, that's a coach thing. I mean, but hey, yeah, LSU, man, tisk. Maybe they should vacate that damn trophy too with the 2007.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Exactly. Hey,
if they do vacate that trophy in 2017, we'll self-claim it just like UCF.
yeah, it's always way
Put
to
a
do
little
it. Hey,
asterisk next to it.
speaking of a guy that never had to
Yeah.
self-proclaim anything, Deion Sanders, Coach Primetime. We talked about before. He's keeping his foot, but he's getting emergency surgery on his leg. So we just want to give a shout out to you, Coach Prime, out there at University of Colorado. Hopefully that surgery goes well and you get those blood clots out of your leg, and hopefully that foot stays fine if you don't lose it.
With
Hey.
Coach Prime real quick too. I mean, do you boys think his little statement about him not wanting to coach the NFL is true or not?
Well, that's what I
If he got
mentioned. I said,
offered, if he got offered an NFL job, is he taking it?
Actually, I don't think he will. I mean, I think he wants to have the impact on the kids. I think that's really what's more important to him is helping kids out. It's the whole reason he really went to Jackson State in the first place, was to help kids get to the NFL level. And plus, I don't think he wants to deal with the divas at the NFL level, those wide receivers, stuff like that. These dudes making more money than him. Well, probably not making more than him, but dudes actually making good money. I don't think he wants to deal with all that.
oh, they'd be getting paid more than him.
I wouldn't say
I don't
he's
think
here.
they have more money than him overall, though.
Oh, yeah, not
Maybe not
overall.
overall, but the statement about him wanting to help the kids, I'm not saying he's not there to help these kids, but I don't think it's about that. I think it's about control. Prime has to be in control. He has to be the head of the chair, and I think if he goes to the NFL, he's going to lose that role. I mean,
he's not going to work for anybody else.
Yeah, he doesn't want to work for anybody else. But I mean, just look at the Colorado kids that were looking for their tape at practice, and Prime was like, no.
Yeah, I don't know about the NFL. Maybe one day, like when he's had enough of the college football, maybe he's had a good 10, 15 years in college, and he's like, hey, I want to try a new challenge. But I think the next step, if he's going to do anything, it's going to be a bigger program than Colorado. I know we've mentioned Florida State. Maybe one day they start to get a little –
Alabama.
Yeah, maybe Alabama. Hey, maybe Texas gets rid –
They say it probably doesn't have too many more years in him.
Maybe Sarkisian, too. Maybe Sarkisian, they get rid of him after a while. Maybe he wants to go to Texas. He can get those Texas boys to play. Texas would be heavily recruited.
He's got a house in Texas.
Yeah, so I'm saying that there's some big-name colleges that could one day, hey, you never know, maybe James Franklin in Penn State gets fired, and then he goes to Penn State, and he brings Penn State back to glory days, and he's going to turn someone around one day. I think he'll make that jump. Yeah, back then. But just give you a shout-out, Prime. Hopefully you recover good. But to end our show, boys, we got a must-ask debate, out there on Instagram in our DMs from Ladarius. He asked us. He just wants to know who our favorite player to watch was from our division rivals. So for you, Luke, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Steelers. For me, the Saints, the Bucks, or the Panthers. And Chris, same thing, minus the Saints. Have to pick someone from the Falcons. I'll go first. I loved watching the Bucks defense back in the day. Rodney Barber, to me, is one of the better corners I've ever watched play football. The man was a beast. He was obviously on a great defense with Derek Brooks and John Lynch and Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice. But, man, Rodney Barber was always the right place, right time kind of corner. The man was a beast. I hated playing against him because the man was a stud. But with that being said, I'm glad he's finally going to the Hall of Fame. Man deserves it. Also a pretty good commentator for Fox. But, yeah, I like watching Rodney Barber play. I think number 20 out there in Tampa Bay was a beast. Luke, I know you were kind of questioning it. Who you picking from the AFC North?
So I'm going to go Troy Polamalu. Dude played the safety position very different than anybody else ever has. Pretty much played the line of scrimmage half the time anyways. 8-time Pro Bowler, played 12 seasons, 2 Super Bowls. Dude is a fucking freak. He balled out. He was not scared of contact, super athletic, not a huge frame, not a huge body, but super athletic, got the ball in his hands. Most of the time he's probably taking it to the house or he's going to do something fucking ridiculous with that ball.
Yeah, you remember that playoff game? You remember that playoff game where he scooped his hand underneath that against the Ravens. You remember that?
It may have touched the grass, but no, dude, it was crazy to watch play the game. It was crazy to watch in the AFC North 2 elite safeties playing the game very differently. So
one was a free safety, one was
Ed Reed's off the ball hawking, picking off quarterbacks, and Troy Polamalu was just fucking full head of steam down at the quarterback, jumping over linemen before they changed the rules. Like dude was an animal. Time in the snap count. It fucked up Pat McAfee's one touchdown opportunity.
Yeah, I saw. I heard that.
And that was play.
That was always the argument, was who was the best safety at the time. I mean, I go Ed Reed. I like that style. He played better, more like the ball hawk. Polamalu, like you said, was the strong safety, more like when you had the Legion of Boom. He was the Cam Chancellor. He invented that role. Chris, NFC South. I mean, who you going?
I mean, the South is hard. I mean, we had a lot of great players, like you mentioned. The Tampa Bay defense, you could literally pick anybody on that defense, and it could be there. Carolina had some great players. Most recently, Christian McCaffrey. I love watching Luke Kuechly. I mean, he was a killer linebacker. But I'm going to have to go a player out of Tampa Bay, Julio Jones, number 6.
Yeah, show some respect. First off, show some respect.
Fuck the Falcons.
No, show some respect on Julio.
Fuck the Falcons. Tampa Bay, Julio Jones.
He wasn't the prime, and Julio, Mr. 300 receiving yards, 2016.
He got some tutties down there in Tampa.
Yeah, he did.
Great player. I loved watching him in Tampa.
Yeah, that 1 year in Tampa, that's definitely what put him in the Hall of Fame, was definitely playing with Tom Brady out there and Mike Evans and Godwin. But no, I definitely Julio with Atlanta, like Chris said, was a beast. I couldn't really pick a Saints player. I wasn't a huge Drew Brees fan. I mean, I thought he was great. I just didn't really like watching him. He didn't excite me. Just maybe the style was not there. But Saints had some good players. But yeah, thanks Ladarius for following us and listening to us and give us a little listeners load segment. Hey, anyone that wants to participate or just follow us, we have TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. All About the Boss podcast. So search the Sack House. You guys just follow us, like our videos, and just ask us questions. We'll definitely put you out there and read your questions out. But boys, man, what a good episode. AFC North. We found out the Bengals are going to be a 3-time winner like the Buffalo Bills are, the AFC East. Man, Who Dey Nation.
Who Dey.
But
I don't have to switch much. Who Dey, who dat.
Yeah, it's true. You don't have to.
Who copied who?
There was always argument. I think Who Dey was. Yeah, it was always Who Dey first. The Jungle was first.
They were also there before us, but
that's true. But hey, what a great episode, boys! Definitely loved it. Luke, you did great. You were definitely passionate tonight. I saw that fire in your eyes. I heard that in your voice, man. It was great talking to AFC North, wasn't it?
We got a division he knows about.
Yeah, I know. I pay attention to this division a little bit.
Chris, you did great as well. Good to have you in the Sack House talking football. Great with your takes in the AFC North, my friend.
Hey, thank you. And I just want to say, for all you listeners out there, go Tigers. We're going to play Saturday, and we're going to fuck Florida up, because fuck Florida. Also, that documentary is coming out pretty soon in the swamp. Excited to see that one. Should be pretty fire.
Yeah, that one I'm excited
killers
for. Plus the Netflix quarterback documentary coming out, following Patrick Mahomes, and Kirk? Who else is following it?
Kirk
Cousins,
Mariota,
and Mariota. Yeah, where he gets cut on his birthday.
Yeah, so you have your
birthday.
You have your superstar, you have your average quarterback, and then you have your below average quarterback. That's a good way to feed it. But speaking of that documentary, real quick before we sign out, I'm excited to see that. Like Chris said, you have a killer in Aaron Hernandez. You have a priest, Mr. Holy Man, Tim Tebow out there.
God bless.
You got a racist and Riley Cooper, Percy Harvin with his migraines. You have Joe Hayden out there, Urban Meyer, who allows all his coaches to do whatever, allegedly. But man,
Cam
I can't see that actually.
Laptops.
Yeah, Cam Newton's on that team as well for that little dynasty. I found
Pouncey brothers, the twins.
Yeah, Pouncey brothers are there. Hey, even Chris Leak was on that first championship they had. So I'm excited to see that.
Wow.
I'm also excited to talk NFC North, Doc's division next episode. But hey, great episode, boys. That is Luke Rule. That is Chris Gemeinhart. Shout out to you, Doc, out there celebrating the newlyweds. I'm Mark Davis, and this is All About the Balls podcast, and we are out. Thank you for checking out another episode of All About the Balls podcast. We want to thank all of our listeners and supporters of the Sack House. You can listen to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe and give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at the Sack House.